Okay, so I'm gonna be redoing the story of Cupcakes. I thought the microphone on my laptop was very crappy, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually redo it by giving you guys a better audio and a better thing for it, so maybe redo this and restart all over. Okay, maybe we begin. Also, I almost forgot, link to the story is in the description down below. Read if you dare, if you are willing to. Cupcakes Forever. Chapter 1. The beginning of the end. Mayor's eyes finally drifted closed for the last time, and Pinkie Pie smiled. She had always wanted to find out what her cupcakes would taste like if she cooked the pony first. And now she would find out. Who knows? It could create the perfect cupcake, Pinkie mused to herself. If she thought about it hard enough, it seemed like she could relive the events of today all over again. Earlier that day, Mayor walked down the street towards Cube Corner. The ponies of Ponyville were out and about cleaning up after last night's big storm. Today was rather pleasant, compared to the howling gales of the night. I wonder why the weather team lost control of it. Cloud Chaser said that since Rainbow Dash disappeared, the weather team has been experiencing some difficulties. But the town was ravaged by the storm. She thought to herself, maybe I should send a request for more Pegasi for our weather team. She thought as Sugar Cube Corner came into view. Soon she came upon her destination, and she gingerly pushed the door open. She had gotten an invitation to a taste testing for the upcoming anniversary of the town's induction. She walked inside and found that the room was empty, which she found to be slightly odd for this time of day. Hello? Mr. Cake? Miss Cake? Pinkie Pie? Is anyone here? She called out. 1 minute! Came a sing-song voice from the kitchen. Mayor took the time to look around the room. It was decorated with balloons, streamers, and candy dishes filled with vast assortment of treats were strung around the room. She turned when she heard the door open behind her. She saw a very excited Pinkie Pie. You're early, Mayor, she said with a large beaming smile. Well, Pinkie, as mayor, I have to make good impressions. You're so early! I haven't even been able to finish the samples yet, Pinkie exclaimed while she hopped up in the air. Well, I could come back later. I do have some important paperwork to review, Mayor said as she turned towards the door. No, wait! Pinkie said quickly. Why don't you help me instead? She asked with a smile. Mayor put her hoof to her chin. Well, I guess I could help, she said with uncertainty present in her voice. Although I don't know my way around the kitchen fairly well. That's okay, I only need you to get the ingredients. Well, okay then, let's get started. Yay, first things first! Pinkie reached into her mane. Here, try this one, Pinkie said as she presented the mayor with a cupcake. Well, what's this? Mayor questioned. It's from the first batch. Pinkie lowered her voice to a loud whisper. I won't tell any pony if you have one now. Mayor lifted the pastry from Pinkie's hoof and began to eat it whole. She noted that the texture of the cupcake was excellent, and the flavor was simply extraordinary. After she swallowed the morsel, she opened her mouth to speak about her findings, but suddenly she felt lightheaded. The room began to spin, her legs felt like jello, and soon she wasn't even able to stand as a sleepy sensation swept across her body. As her eyes closed and she drifted into unconsciousness, she saw a pink blurry image get closer, and soon all she could see was an impossibly large smile. Chapter 2. Why, Pinkie? Why? Mayor slowly opened her eyes, blinking several times to adjust her sight to the low lighting, and immediately regretted doing so. Even though there was almost no light except for a single fixture above her, her eyes felt like they were on fire. The air was sickly sweet, but at the same time coppery. She felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that she was laying on a table made of wooden planks. She tried to move her hoof to shield her eyes, but found that all of them were securely shackled to the platform that she was on. She resisted against the tight metal shackles for a few seconds before realizing that it was pointless. Suddenly there was a quiet sound coming from somewhere in front of her. Mare began to panically look around, but she couldn't make out anything distinguishable. Finally, her vision began to come back into focus, and a bouncing Pinkie Pie bounced forth from the darkness that surrounded her. "Pinkie, you have to help me! I don't know where I am or how I got here, but—" Mare froze as the memories from earlier flashed to her mind. You put me here, didn't you?" she asked in an accusing tone. Pinkie Pie smiled and hopped up and down excitedly. "Yep! Oh, we're going to have so much fun, Mare! Now that you're awake, just you wait!" "Fun?" Pinkie gave a quick nod. "Mm-hmm, lots of it!" "What about the cupcakes? The samples?" "Well, you see, I need more secret ingredients, and you're going to help me get it," Pinkie said with a beaming smile. "Secret ingredient? You mean like vanilla or—" Mare stopped because Pinkie began shaking her head quickly. "No, silly! Remember what I said earlier? I said I only need you to get the ingredients." Pinkie Pie stared at the mare expectantly for a few moments. "The secret ingredient is you!" she added while pointing out at Mare. "This is all some sort of joke, right?" she asked with a weak smile followed by an uncomfortable laugh. Pinkie shook her head and said, "Nope!" and the mare stopped laughing. Fear shot through her body, and Mare began to take short, quick breaths as she eventually became sobs. She hung her head as the tears flowed from her eyes directly to the floor, and the rest of her body trembled from fear. She continued to sob even after she felt a hoof touch her cheek and slowly lift her head up. "Aw, please don't cry. You know you shouldn't be sad, Mare," Pinkie said with a pout, which made Mare's hope rise up enough to choke back her sobs. You're going to help me make lots of ponies very happy," Pinkie stated matter-of-factly. "What about me?" She began crying again. "Doesn't my happiness, my life mean anything?" "Well, of course they do. But, well, your number came up, so—" "So I'm going to die because of my number," Mare shouted. Pinkie brought her hoof to her chin and rubbed it. "Yeah," she nonchalantly stated after she thought about it for a while. "Why? Just why?" Mare feared that she would die right at this moment. Pinkie Pie stared at the ground for what seemed like hours. She just stood there motionless, and Mare decided to try and wiggle out of her shackles again, to no avail. Finally, after what seemed like forever in a frightened state of mind, Mare decided to simply ask Pinkie Pie to release her. "Pinkie Pie? Please just let me go. I know a great doctor who can help you. But you have to let me go." Pinkie Pie giggled. "Oh, I can't do that, silly. I need you." With that, Pinkie Pie bounded off into the darkness and returned pushing a cart that was cloaked. Pinkie Pie grabbed the cloak in her mouth and quickly pulled it off. Mare's eyes settled on the cart, and through her tears she saw horrible devices. The devices on the cart included a vast array of sharp tools, hammers, and even corkscrews. It all appeared to be arranged in order of ability to cause pain. Upon realizing that these things were meant to be used on her, Mare's stomach became empty. "If you think that's neat, you should see the rest of the room," Pinkie gushed as she zipped off into the darkness again. Mare heard a click and the rest of the room's lights flashed on. The brilliantly bright light caused Mare to close her eyes and wait for them to adjust. As she reopened her eyes, the sight that was before her was something straight out of the horror movie she watched while attending the Canterlot Academy. Organs filled with helium and done up with pastels floated around the room. On the wall was a banner which was made of tanned pony hides, sported by the phrase, "Life is a party," and what appeared to be blood. Streamers made from intestines hung from the ceiling. Skulls of past ponies were gingerly placed about the room, but most were on the wall, opposing her. The furniture towards the center of the room was made out of preserved flesh and bones of ponies. But the thing that horrified Mare the most was the fact that Rainbow Dash was standing right in front of her. "See? I brought us a friend to play with, Dashy, Pinky said as she walked up next to Dash. She placed her hoof on Dash's back and began talking. Hey, Mayor. Sorry I haven't been to work lately, but I was just having such an awesome time with Pinky that I decided I would never leave. Mayor quickly noticed that Dash's voice wasn't right, and her mouth movements didn't match the words. Oh my Celestia! Mayor began to hyperventilate. You killed her! You killed... She broke down into tears once more. She looked back up into the lifeless eyes of Equestrian's fastest flyer and felt a tang of sorrow. She was your friend! How could you? Her panic-stricken eyes scanned all over the room. How could you do this to all these ponies? You see, Mayor, Pinky put her foreheads together. I create smiles and laughter. If that means that in order to do that, some pony has to get hurt, then so be it, she said with a smile. I turn screams of pain. She held up a hoof and anguished. She held up another hoof and rose up until she was standing on her hind hooves. Into other happiness. Pinkie Pie used her raised hoofs to draw the outline of a smile in the air before resettling them back down onto the floor. But it never lasts very long, and well... She stopped talking and rubbed the back of her head. For some reason, no pony likes my cupcakes without the secret ingredient. She glumly stated, So I had to keep getting more so I could keep getting every pony to smile, she said with her usual pep. But Pinkie Pie... Mayor was cut short by Pinkie's hoof being jammed roughly into her mouth. No more time for questions. It's time to begin, Pinkie said, causing Mayor's pupil to shrink as to the sign of pinpricks. Pinkie bounced over to the cart and grabbed a scalpel. She walked over to Mayor's side and placed it an inch above her cutie mark. Slowly, and with a surgeon-like precision, Pinkie Pie cut a circle around the tan scroll with a blue ribbon. The pain that Mayor was experiencing now was nothing compared to when Pinkie Pie returned with a curved knife and sliced the circle of hide clean off from the Mayor's body. She went to her other side and repeated the process. Help me! Some pony! Help me, please! Mayor screamed. Oh, Mayor, Pinkie said as she placed a comforting hoof on Mayor's cheek. No pony can hear you, she said with a warm smile. Mayor simply cried and watched her cutie marks be thrown onto the cart of tools. She remembered how she had gotten her cutie mark after being elected class president when she was a foal, and cried even harder. This will make my dress super special, Pinkie said brightly as she rubbed the cutie mark on the cart. Although she was crying still, Mayor huffed out a question. What dress? Pinkie Pie beamed and shot off behind Mayor while almost singing. I'll be right back. Mayor desperately struggled against her bonds. She had tried to get out of there or she would die. There was no question about that in her mind. She pulled her hooves with all her might, but nothing productive happened. Her hide had begun to spill, and blood trickled down the metal shackle and onto the platform. She cringed from this new pain slightly, and choked back her sobs until she heard some pony moving behind her. Pinkie Pie burst into a field of view and pranced about around the room, all the while giggling and smiling as if nothing was wrong. She came to a stop in front of Mayor and motioned towards her dress. This is the dress I told you about. I made it myself. Pinkie stopped and thought for a moment. Well, actually, I guess you could say I had a lot of help, Pinkie said as she started looking at each cutie mark, staring momentarily at each one as if she was remembering something. As her eyes reached the cutie marks that adorned the puffy shoulders of her dress, Pinkie's eyes seemed to become misty. She sighed silently and her smile drooped downwards a little, but she remained somewhat peppy. You miss Rainbow Dash, she stuttered through her tears. Pinkie Pie looked up into the Mayor's eyes and said, Miss her? She's right here, and she never leaves. I get to play with her all the time now. I'm just a little upset that she didn't last very long. Mayor stopped, trying to hold back her tears at this point. She saw the wings fluttering on Pinky's monstrosity and a necklace of unicorn horns that clacked together each time she moved and just gave in. "Just kill me! If you're going to do it, just do it!" Mare stated after a while with tears in her eyes.
Aw, but that wouldn't be any fun,
Pinky said as she picked up a large corkscrew and walked over to the Mare's right side.
"And I love fun,"
she said as she placed the normally intimidating tool on Mare's tibia and began to turn it slowly. At first, all she could feel was the heat from the friction of the turn motion against her hide, but Pinkie Pie slowly and methodically applied more and more pressure until it finally breached the skin and flesh. The sudden entry of the foreign object made Mare's gasp out in pain, which quickly became shrieks as the corkscrew started boring its way into her bone.
"Please stop! Please stop!"
she screeched, but Pinkie Pie just stuck her tongue out, slightly biting it and forced even more pressure onto it. Mare started trying to buck her legs, but since they were tightly secured, she couldn't do much other than wiggle around trying to get the crazy pink mare to listen to reason.
"You have to stop moving around, Mare,"
Pinkie said with a smile.
"You could get hurt,"
she said as she grabbed the corkscrew's handle in her mouth and yanked it towards herself. Mare bellowed out in agony when she felt the cruel device that was screwed into her leg be pulled to the side with such force. The bone started audibly cracking, but before it could break, Pinkie ended her assault. Mare began panting as the pain started to intimately die down to just broken bone rather than being struck by a constant bone. Pinkie Pie placed her hoof back onto the handle of the corkscrew and turned it once more, causing the mare to writhe in pain once more. This time, however, Pinkie Pie didn't yank on the tool. Instead, she just placed her other hoof on Mare's leg to hold it still and pressed down even harder as she turned it. She screwed up her face in concentration until finally the corkscrew suddenly jerked forward, through the remainder of the bone and into the calf muscle. Pinkie's eyes lit up when this happened, and her smile grew larger. It was almost like she couldn't hear the soul-wrenching cries of Mare at all. The mare screamed with all her might as a twisted piece of metal broke through her bone, and into the muscle on the other side.
"Please stop! What did I do to ever deserve this?"
Pinkie Pie looked back at the mare's face and said,
"I already told you, silly. Your number came up."
"And what does that mean? What are these numbers you keep talking about?" Mare demanded more than asked.
"Oh, well, you see, Mare, whenever I meet a new pony, I assign them a number in my head."
Pinkie tapped her head with a hoof.
"Then, after I get back home, later that day, I write down their name in my book with their numbers, and I add their numbers to this,"
Pinkie said as she pulled out a rattling ball out of nowhere, seemingly.
"To get my next extra special helper."
Pinkie leaned towards Mare and whispered loudly,
"That's you!"
before continuing in with her explanation.
"I just mix it up like this."
She began rolling the ball with her snout.
"And reach in, pull out a number, then I match the number to the pony, and bingo!"
Pinkie Pie puffed out her chest out of pride a little and asked,
"Pretty smart, huh?"
Pinkie Pie looked at Mare, who was trying to break out the metal shackles once more, and asked,
"Did you even hear me?"
in a hurt tone. She waited for Mare to respond, but she didn't. She just kept on trying to get free of the table she was attached to and escape to sweet freedom.
"You're being very rude!"
Pinkie exclaimed with a certain sternness in her voice.
"I'm being rude?"
Mare shouted.
"Yeah! You're yelling at me, ignoring my stories, and you don't want to play with me! That's very rude!"
Pinkie stated with a hoof stop for each thing on her list as she said it.
"You're trying to kill me!"
Mare hollered even louder.
"So every pony else will be happy,"
Pinkie said.
"So you think every pony else will be happy if I die?" "The cupcakes you help me will make them happier,"
Pinkie said with a bounce.
"You're sick!"
Mare exclaimed through her thick fog of pain. Pinkie Pie held one of her hoofs up to her forehead.
"You think so? I don't feel very warm."
"Please, Pinkie, please just let me go, please," Mare said in the calmest voice she could muster. Pinkie Pie simply shook her head.
I told you, silly filly.
She tried to stifle a giggle.
I can't do that.
She said with a wide grin.
Now, where were we?
She said as she surveyed the immediate area.
Please, please let me go. Let me go.
Mayor blubbered along with one last feeble attempt to break free on her own. Pinkie Pie just shook her head. She had never seen a pony cry like this before. Normally they would have just given up by now, but the mayor just kept on trying, and this made Pinkie Pie smile. She was going to have lots of fun this time around. She walked back over to the mayor's side and placed her hoof back on the corkscrew. Mayor gave a staggered gasp and pleadingly looked into Pinkie's eyes. Pinkie Pie smiled brightly, twisted and pushed down as hard as she could. The corkscrew tore through the muscle and curled up the other side of Mayor's leg. Pinkie Pie, however, kept twisting the tool downwards and eventually began embedding itself into the wood of the table. Mayor cried out from the pain of her muscle being tormented in such a way. She didn't know how much more she could take, but she was sure it wasn't much. Pinkie Pie walked over to the car and grabbed another corkscrew.
Oh, Mayor! Guess what? No! Please! No! No!
Mayor shouted as she saw what Pinkie was holding. Pinkie Pie snorted and laughed. As she walked back over to the mayor, she placed the corkscrew over the mayor's other leg and once again began screwing it into her. Pinkie Pie screwed the corkscrew all the way through the mayor's left leg before she realized that the mayor had decided to take a nap.
Every time I invite another pony to help me make cupcakes,
Pinkie muttered under her breath. She walked over to a corner of the room and grabbed her medical bag. As she approached the mayor, she placed the bag on the ground and began to rummage through it. She pulled out a syringe of Adrenaline, but before she could stuff the mayor with an idea popped up into her mind. Chapter 3. A Screwed Up Life. Mayor's eyes shot open from the icy water's contact with her body, and she instantly began screaming. Her legs felt as if they were on fire due to the corkscrew and the removal of her cutie marks, but now the pain had spread across all of her legs. She looked around and saw that now all of her legs had corkscrews through them, and that the corkscrews themselves also penetrated the table, screwing her in place. Pinkie stood off to the side, holding a bucket and smiling brightly. She tossed the bucket behind her and walked around to the right side of the table. She undid all the shackles that held Mayor in place one by one with a smile.
You're letting me go?
Mayor asked with hope filling in her voice.
Something like that,
Pinkie said as she undid the last shackle. Mayor tried to bolt off the table and through the door, but the corkscrews held her in place. Pinkie Pie smiled even larger when she saw that her plan was working. She skipped back around the table and hummed tunelessly until she reached Mayor's right side. Pinkie Pie placed a hoof on the turn wheel and began rotating it. Mayor felt the table begin to shift, and she realized that by turning the wheel, Pinkie Pie was making the table go upright. She looked at each of the corkscrews and gulped. The table slowly lurched upright, and soon Mayor's weight was being supported slowly by the corkscrews. Her body lurched forward, causing her new restraints handles to dig into the appendages they currently were forced through. Tears welled up in Mayor's eyes as she struggled to hold back a scream. Pinkie Pie, on the other hand, was softly stroking her chin once more, her facial features screwed up in deep concentration. Suddenly she gasped as inspiration struck her. Pinkie Pie began giggling uncontrollably as she walked over to a corner of the room behind Mayor. Pinkie Pie returned to Mayor's side with a small bag in her mouth. She dropped it onto the car and opened it, up to reveal that the bag was filled with party favors. She pulled out a party hat, a party horn, and a small tube of something that the mayor wasn't really sure of what it was. Pinkie Pie picked up the hat and placed it on the mayor's head. She backed away from the mayor and looked at her eyes, with sparkles. Mayor shook her head slightly, and his hat fell off. Pinkie Pie walked over, picked up the hat off the floor, and placed it on the mayor's head. Once again, the mayor shook it off. Pinkie Pie began to think, as the mayor began to struggle once more, wincing in pain with each movement. Suddenly, Pinkie had an idea of how she could get the pesky hat to stay on the mayor. And she bounced off behind her once more. Pinkie returned seconds later and replaced the hat, but this time she pulled out a stapler and stapled it below. Mayor began screaming from the new pain that she was subjected to. She was screaming so hard that she didn't notice Pinkie Pie returned with the party horn, which had a white substance dripping from it, and a clamp. Pinkie Pie forced the party horn into the mayor's mouth and quickly placed a clamp on her muzzle, securing it in place. Mayor tried to speak as tears began running down her cheeks once more, but all that would come out was the noise from the party horn. Pinkie Pie simply giggled and said,
"It's not a party without these things, you know."
Pinkie Pie prickled her scalpel back up and walked back to the mayor's side. She placed it on the mayor's thigh and removed a small piece of flesh. Pinkie watched with glee as a crimson fluid gently flowed forth from the new wound. Before turning her attention to the piece of meat she held in her hoof, she studied it for a while and popped it into her mouth.
Mmm,
Pinkie said as she began to chew.
I wish I could try this, Mayor, but it looks like you already have a mouthful.
Pinkie said before snickering at her own joke. Mayor watched the display and began to hurl. However, the party horn prevented her bile from exciting through her mouth, and the acid-landed fluid forced its way out of her nostrils. Mayor slumped forward, which caught Pinkie's attention.
Mayor? Mayor?
Pinkie poked her.
Aw, why does everybody fall asleep? Can't they see that this is really fun? And that the falling asleep is very rude?
Pinkie asked as she grumpily sat down on her haunches.
Oh well, I guess it's time to stop playing.
Chapter 4. This may or may not be the end. Pinkie Pie grabbed a shot of adrenaline and gave the injection to Mayor, who seconds later was wide awake and breathing heavily, which made Pinkie Pie chuckle since the party horn was still in the mayor's mouth. Pinkie Pie removed the clamp from the mayor's muzzle, and she instantly went out to spit out the horn, but found out that it wasn't budging. Pinkie Pie cleared her throat to get the mayor's attention.
Ahem! Silly, I glued it,
she said brightly. Mayor whimpered slightly, and Pinkie Pie back over to turn the wheel and brought her back to a laying position. Pinkie Pie surveyed the mayor for a few seconds before deciding what to do next. She walked back behind Mayor and returned pushing a small rusted generator that had wires attached to it.
I know what you're thinking, Mayor, but trust me,
Pinkie said as she stopped pushing the generator.
This is an oldie but goodie.
Mayor's eyes widened as she watched Pinkie Pie attach the wires to the corkscrew that held her in place. She squirmed, whimpered, and tried to walk around the party horn to no effect other than causing the horn to make its signature sound. Pinkie Pie giggled at this as she placed her hoof on a dial on the generator. She looked back at the mayor and said,
It's time for Mega Hurts!
Pinkie began giggling at her joke as she turned the dial, releasing the generator's electricity. She looked back at the mayor, who was now contouring and blowing the party horn extremely hard.
Do you get it? Mega Hurts?
Pinkie started laughing again.
Oh, crack me up,
she said as she wiped a tear from her eye. Pinkie Pie turned the dial again, raising the voltage of the current, and watched eagerly as the mayor danced upon the table for her. Pinkie clapped her foreheads together and started laughing again. A few minutes later, and the party horn stopped making noise. Pinkie Pie turned the generator off and walked up to the mayor's body. Her body continued to convulse on its own for a few moments, but after it stopped, Pinkie placed the hoof on the mayor's chest and found that her heart was still beating. Pinkie breathed a sigh of relief as she walked over to her medical bag and retrieved another adrenaline shot and 3 layer syringes of numbering medication, which she placed on her cart. Pinkie Pie inserted the adrenaline shot into the mayor's chest and pushed the plunger all the way forward. After a few seconds, the mayor's eyes shot open. Her body was racked with pain and she couldn't move anything other than her eyes. The mayor tried to speak again, but the horn was still firmly in place.
What was that, Mayor?
Pinkie asked.
Here, let me get that for you.
She grabbed the horn with her hooves and pulled it with all her might. The glue wouldn't give, but the mayor's fleshy lips did. As Pinkie pulled, she watched in fascination as the mayor's lips began to peel from her face. Blood was being splattered everywhere by the mayor's screams, but Pinkie didn't mind at all. Pinkie continued to pull even though the mayor's screams of pain and agony grew louder, until at last the horn was successfully removed. Pinkie sat back onto her haunches and wiped the trickle of sweat off her brow as the mayor's screams died down to whispers, tears, and loud panting breaths. Pinkie Pie grabbed one of the larger needles and held it up. The mayor stared at it with large, full fear eyes. Pinkie Pie noticed this and said,
"This is for the pain, Mayor,"
in a glee-filled tone. Pinkie walked over and inserted it into Mayor's neck and forced the contents of the needle into her. She walked back over to her car and grabbed the 2 remaining needles. She inserted one into the mayor's left flank, and the other into her right.
"Now,"
Pinkie said as she clapped her foreheads together,
"in a while, your entire body will be numb and we can continue."
Mare by this point knew it was pointless to beg for her life. The blood from her new wound ran down her mouth. She spit most of it out, but the horrible coppery taste still remained. She began to sob once more as she began thinking back on life. What have I done to deserve this? She thought to herself. True to her word, after about a minute, the mayor's entire body was blissfully numb. Pinkie Pie tested this by poking and prodding her with a knife a few times and watching her reaction.
"Goody! Now you have to be patient, Mayor."
Pinkie started as she turned back toward her cart.
"I've never done anything like this before. Oh, it's going to be so much fun!"
Pinkie squealed. She picked up her scalpel and made her way back to Mare. Mare's eyes followed the reddened blade as Pinkie Pie placed it at the base of the hide, on the mare's left foreleg. Gently, Pinkie began making a cut straight up to Mare's shoulder. She returned the blade to where she began her incision and ran it down Mare's leg. Mare began hyperventilating once more as she saw the blood begin to pool beneath her leg. "What are you doing to me now?" she asked in a fearful tone.
"I never skinned a pony alive before,"
Pinkie said with sparkles in her eyes.
"I mean, I've done it plenty of times before, but they had already been harvested."
Pinkie exclaimed.
"What?"
Mare shouted. She tried to move, but her body won't obey her mind. All she could do was just lay there and watch as her hide was removed from her body. Pinkie Pie grabbed her curved knife once more and skillfully began taking the hide off Mare's leg. She screwed her face up in concentration and slowly removed the hide from the leg. She had to stop when she reached the corkscrew, and in order to continue, she had to remove it. Pinkie Pie unscrewed the limp leg from the table, but when she tried to completely unscrew the corkscrew, it wouldn't come out. Pinkie Pie looked at it and smiled. She turned her smile toward Mare's face.
"Good thing you're numb, Mayor,"
Pinkie exclaimed. "Why is that?" she asked in a hoarse voice.
"Because now it's time for the twist."
Pinkie squealed as she twisted the corkscrew. The bone broke and the flesh tore as Pinkie Pie twisted the corkscrew again and again, until finally she was able to remove it from the limb. She walked over to the others, and surprisingly they came out with relative ease compared to the first one. After the corkscrews were removed, Pinkie Pie continued to skin Mare alive. She started skinning her other limbs one by one until the hide hung from them at the shoulders and flanks, then proceeded onto the mare's chest. Pinkie Pie placed her scalpel just below the mare's neck and cut it around it. She then removed it to another and cut another long vertical incision from her first cut all the way down to just above the mare's nether regions. From there she made 2 diagonal cuts, one to where she stopped cutting onto the left flank and the other to the right.
"Gee, Mayor, it's awfully warm in here, isn't it?"
Pinkie asked as she moved closer to the mare.
"Here, let me take your coat."
Pinkie set about removing the remaining layer of skin from the mare as she chuckled at her joke. She carefully cut the hide away from the mayor's chest and paused. She needed to flip the mayor over so she could finish her work. Pinky grabbed the mayor and pulled her onto her back. She then did something similar to a buck and flipped the mayor back onto the table. The mayor landed with a thud. She tried to catch herself, but the medication's effect was still in force. She watched as the table rushed towards her and closed her eyes before impacting it. She was now on her stomach, which she was sure that if the medicine wasn't in her now, would have been the most painful thing she had ever felt. She stopped helplessly as Pinkie Pie began humming and resuming her work. Pinkie Pie removed the hide from the mayor's back quickly and held it up so the mayor could see it.
I did a really good job, didn't I, Mayor?
Pinkie asked joyfully. The mayor didn't answer. She just stared numbly at her once beautiful coat that was now dripping blood. Pinkie Pie gingerly folded it like she would her pajamas and walked back over to the mayor.
Okay, Mayor, it's time for the final round,
Pinkie said with a hint of finality. Mayor wasn't listening. She was busy staring at her hide. She looked down at her muscular form, and she wanted to cry. But for some reason she couldn't. She accepted the fact that she was really going to die like this. Pinkie Pie picked her scalpel back up and placed it above the mayor's pelvis. She raised a horizontal cut, moving it up to just under her ribcage, and finally made another horizontal cut. She finally made a vertical cut to connect the two horizontal cuts.
Well, Mayor, you're taking this much better than I expected you to,
Pinkie said with a smile. Pinkie opened the mayor's abdominal cavity and stared starry-eyed at the mayor's organs. Pinkie reached in and began removing the large intestine. Pinkie reached in and began by removing the large intestine. She pulled it out, tied a loop on one other end of it, and swung it over her head like a lasso.
Look, Mayor, I'm Applejack,
Pinkie said as she began impersonating the cow pony.
Yeehaw, boy, let's raise this barn.
Pinkie dropped the intestine and pulled out the smaller intestine next. She squeezed out the fecal matter and stretched it out. She then began to strum it and whistle a random song. Pinkie felt like she should try to remember the song for later as she dove back in. She pulled out the layers of liver, kidneys, pancreas, bladder, and stomach in her accustomed sequence. After she had finished with the removal of the intestines, she looked into the mayor's eyes and realized something.
Wow, Mayor, you're still awake. Well, that's the first.
Pinkie put on her thinking cap. For some pony to last this long called for something that would truly make this memorable. Inspiration struck, and Pinkie dashed off to one of the room's back corner. She returned with some wood, a can, and some matches. She spread the wood on the floor and started pouring whatever was in the can on it. She then walked back over to the table and pulled the mayor off. She dragged her across the floor, leaving a bloody path behind her, to where the wood was, and hoisted the mayor onto the wood. It was then that the mayor smelled the distinctive odor of kerosene. Pinkie lit a match, and the mayor just watched.
Mayor, it's been really fun, but this time, it's time for me to get cooking,
Pinkie said as she tossed the match onto the kerosene-soaked wood. Flames shot up immediately, and the mayor screamed as flames engulfed her vision. Pinkie Pie smiled and pulled out some marshmallows and a stick from nowhere. She pushed the marshmallow onto the end of the stick and stuck it into the fire. After a few seconds, it was golden brown, so she rotated it, and that the size was finished, she plucked it off and popped it into her mouth. She turned her attention back to the mayor, whose body was now getting charred. Mayor's eyes finally drifted close for the last time, and Pinkie smiled. She had always wanted to find out what her cupcakes would taste like if she cooked the pony first. And now she would find out.
Who knows? It could create the perfect cupcake,
Pinkie mused to herself. If she thought about it hard enough, it seemed like she could relive the events of today all over again. Holy crap, guys. I actually wanted to do a redo. I wanted to do a redo on this, actually, because I felt like the audio was crappy on my one last reading, because it just wasn't good enough, you know. So, sorry if there's any misspelling in this or me mispronouncing the words. I've been having a little hard time because, you know, I've been actually reading a bit fast, so I'm gonna try really hard to read slowly, so, you know, but still. Yeah. But, as I checked, I got 14 views on my Cupcake Forever. I don't know why, but something doesn't feel right. No, it doesn't. Oh my god. Oh my god, guys, come on. Why you keep actually, First of all, why am I getting so many views on my main Speed Paint channel, and then why am I getting one on my Cupcake Forever one? I mean, sure, guys, please don't watch this one, because if you want, you can watch it, but the audio, you won't be able to hear me very well on this, because the audio is very bad on it, and I don't know why, but yeah. Knows. Maybe I'll actually be requesting other people who actually want me to read other stories. But, you know, who knows, warriors? Maybe it's just fiction. Anyway, hope you warriors enjoyed this video. I'll be sure to be opening requests for readings. But for now, I really hope this is a good redo of it, but still. Hope you warriors enjoyed this video. If you liked it, claw that like button, and subscribe to join the clan. But yeah. I'll see you warriors in my next video. Stay sharp!